Okay, this is our first in a series of how to paint clouds in acrylics. And when I do a few of these, later on I'll do them in oils, and you can see there's a difference in the method of in the oil and the acrylics. It's quite different. So I'm going to tilt this down where you can see right now a little bit how I'm going to mix up my paint. I'm going to mix this blue, yellow, and red, and that's all I use as my primary colors. So what I will do is, you can see what I have right here. Try to have it where you can see. I will mix yellow and red and a little bit of blue in it to make brown. Because you know, if you put red and yellow together, you're going to get orange or gold. I'm going to use mostly yellow. Pick it up and put it over here. A little bit of red and more yellow, I believe. Now what we do, we make orange. And when we make orange, which needs a little more red, then make orange, then we'll turn around and we'll pick up some blue that I have on my other little palette right here. I'm just using lids. Anything like this will work for your paint, and literally costs nothing other than the fact that you bought a bowl of margarine. As you see now, that orange is turning to a brown. So that's a really good way to do it, is make the orange and add a little blue. If you add too much blue, then it's going to turn green or black. Now this is the time to look at your brown. This is the time to look at your brown and see if it is the color brown that you want. It looks perfect to me, but to know exactly what color brown it is, I'll put a little white in there, and then you'll know. Is it going to be the right color of brown and beige that you want? Perfect. Let's say that it's not warm enough. All I have to do is go back and add a little bit of red in there on the side of this and make almost like a sienna color and add white to it. Look what you come up with. Two different colors of brown. So I'm going to place this down, and then I'm going to paint the bottom of the scenery, at least the background right now. So all we know is we have a sky. In a few minutes I'll put the clouds in. But right now I want to put the land in, and it will be probably with some kind of waterway and trees. So I'm just going to put a little river running through here. And of course it won't be brown, it'll be a little bit of blue with some reflections. And that could be a road or water. We still have time to decide which. But right in here we need to have the soil color, the dirt color, so we can plant various plants or trees. So I'm just going to put a quick wash on this too. And it doesn't matter, you can do it, kind of scrub it in here, because we're going to go back over it with another layer, probably even the third time, to get a good cover. But we need to get rid of that white canvas. I always completely cover a canvas the first setting. Then that way you can kind of judge the colors. Against the stark white, the color will look one way, but compared to the other colors, then it may not look right after you put your combination of colors with it. So we're going to just paint this brownish color. Then I'm going to go back and kind of vary it a little bit with our sienna color, which we did a while ago. Get a little bit warmer. So we're just going to kind of scrub that in here because, of course, these are primered. But until you get some paint on here, the cloth, the canvas, the stretched canvas is kind of thirsty, and it will just drink up all the water, and it's hard to work with. So I love to get some paint on here, and then I'll know what I want to do. Let's just get some. We'll plant grass, or we'll plant wildflowers. We'll put some trees back in here. And I think instead of water, we're going to put a little country road. I've had a lot of paintings I've painted with waterways, and I think it's time to put a little country road back in here. When you put a waterway or you put a river or a road in a painting, then you're showing perspective. As it goes away from you, it gets smaller, and it helps you get into the painting and realize that there's depth to this painting. So just kind of quickly mixing up all these different browns, and I will wrap it around the side, of course. But to save time right now, I'm just going to do the front of it. But before I use all my paint up, I will paint it around the sides. I fell the other day. It was sure not a pretty sight. But I'm recovering just fine. Okay. People tell me, be careful. I'm always careful. There's just something just gets in my way and just reaches up and grabs me and throws me down. It's amazing how gravity works. Okay, enough of the nonsense. Now we have this background color. Now we've already decided this is going to be a country road, so it's also going to be brown, but I'm going to make it, make the ruts starting here. And you know that in a country road, if it's mud, I like to do the muddy ruts. It's rather than just, a highway's boring. Why not have a country road here? They'll make ruts, and usually they'll follow those ruts. If it's been raining, each vehicle that goes down there will try to stay in those ruts so that they won't slide off to the side. Now, okay, we've already made a couple of decisions. We've decided there's going to be no waterway in this, and there are going to be 2 ruts. Road ruts. Okay. Now, in here, besides that's going to be a little bit lighter, where the light will be hitting this, and we will establish in a moment, we'll make the decision which way the light is coming from. And so there are a couple of things that we will need to do. But right now we're just going to paint the highlights on the road where the ruts are not. And of course, I'm not going to make it really, really pretty. It doesn't have to be looking so dramatic right now. Let's just cover that white. Like I said, let's just get rid of the white. There may be a time that that's not the case. Maybe I don't paint the whole painting because I'm into a lot of detail or geometric shapes that don't require that. Excuse me this morning. Down here in Texas, we have the allergies situation, which I suppose you have in your state. But that's what I'm dealing with this morning. A little bit of allergies. And right in here, we're going to put this in here. I'm going to go back and I will establish those ruts in just a minute. Now where's that going? It's kind of going over the hill and to the other side. And we don't know what's on the other side of the hill, but it doesn't matter. Let's put a little dirt in here. Throw a little dirt in this ruts again. Put a little bit of character and not have them so straight. The lines don't need to be straight, because if you're driving your vehicle on a muddy road, it's going to slip and slide anyway, so these ruts are kind of going to be a little bit crooked. So later on, as we design this painting, and we'll make these decisions as we go, we'll have some kind of trees back in here. And when we do, they'll be smaller. There's background, middle ground, and then foreground. I usually put a limb from the side or a tree to show a lot more perspective, or maybe even a dead tree in here. So right now we've taken care of the road. It's time to paint some clouds. So I'm changing brushes because this brown won't look very good in the sky. I'll go back to my blue brush and rinse it out and get into the white. I have to do this carefully because it's right in the middle of the browns. But I want to show you how we're going to do this. A cloud, now of course I can't see my drawing that I had in there before, but I'm just going to, I don't have to, I can do a cloud. I've done many clouds. You're going to kind of do a motion. You don't want to just paint it like this. That's not really a cloud. A cloud has air circulating. It's fluffy. And it has shape to it. And we're going to do the main cloud. We'll come to about along here. It's a rather large cloud. I will tell you now that later on the cloud will be darker at the bottom, but I'm just using this to kind of mark off where the cloud's going to come to. Cloud, we call it, is a combination of clouds. So right in here, there's going to be another cloud shape. And this cloud is going to kind of wander around over here and eventually end up and go off the picture right back in here. Basically, that's the shape of the cloud. Now, what's the next thing we need to do? There's 2 or 3 ways to do this. I can take the paint on my brush right now and do some soft, fluffy areas where, you know, the clouds, they're thin around the edges. If this brush is not appropriate, I will change to another brush in a little bit. But right now, I'm just using the one that I used before. And right now I can already tell I need a different brush for this. I'll tell you what I do. Get my fingers in here. And for me, this makes a better cloud because I can get that circular, I can get that motion because I can go back and forth and around and it's softer. So today that's what we're going to do. Mostly we're going to use our fingertip to get that lightness of the cloud. Dip in a little bit of water so the paint doesn't dry out too fast. Now as I go in here, the middle of the cloud is going to be the thickest. And the round and at the bottom it'll be a little flat. Then as it goes around the perimeter of the cloud, it'll be kind of light and fluffy because it's breaking off, going in different directions. It takes a lot of paint to put this on here and get it thick enough to be heavy looking in the middle, thicker in the middle. So more than likely I will come back later and work on this a little bit more and put more paint in there. So we're just going to start out here in the middle and I'll let that start drying as I'm working around the edges. And then we will put more paint on here so it's thicker and heavier. Like I can wait 5 minutes and go back in here and put more paint. So I'm just going to put the first application right in here. And I'm going to show you again, I can use the brush for this. But I just prefer the other method. So around the edges, I'm going to just slap some paint in here in various shapes. And leave enough paint in here that I can move it around. Because if I was going to use my brush, I would have a lot less paint on my brush. But for this, I'm going to put a heavier coat. So for the sake of giving you a choice, we're going to do around the edges first. And then we'll come back and make some decisions on the inside of the cloud. And see, I can bring that up here. If you see your fingerprint in there, you just cannot leave it like that. You have to go back in here and change the shape again. And that's the fun of this. Put your fingers in here. And already you have light, fluffy clouds. I don't know why, but I don't see this used very often. Most of the artists will use a brush. That's okay. If it works, it works. For me, it works better with what I'm doing now. Now, at this point, I'm not going to put dark values in this cloud because the blue shining through it will give you those shadow colors. And if I want to add like a sunset color, like the sun sitting, excuse me, and it's casting some gold tones through here, then I will go back and add them. But right now, that's not what I'm thinking about doing. So we have a beginning of a cloud. I think that right in here, I'm going to just kind of continue to do this with my fingers and make a kind of a layered look so it gets thicker as it comes down. So you might say I'm finger painting. I decided to go back and just dip my fingers in that. Works for me. Let's see what you think about it. At some point, I'll probably get a brush and come in here and work on this some. I just want to see what effect we can get this morning using this method. Let's say that we'll use the light source from our left. And so the right side of the cloud will be darker, and there'll be some shadows cast in here. But the left side of each shape will be very white, with this white fluffy cloud. And then I will allow the blue to work in, leave it for the dark shadows. And if this is kind of an easy way to do it. Now my little chihuahua, my baby girl, she's going to be talking to me a little bit because she's jealous. She wants me to pay attention to her, and I can't right now. So we're going to let some of that blue come through there. Let that be the shadow side of the cloud. And let's see how that looks. Baby girl, have you got your little bear you want to play with? Not right now. You'll have to wait. Mama will be through in a little bit. Okay, she has to be patient with her mama when she gets to painting. Okay. When we adopt a pet, we become their pack mate, but mostly we become their parent. And so they depend on us for everything. And we have a little chihuahua in the house. We have a lab that's growing up in the backyard. We have a beagle in his own pen. 3 different personalities. So now I'm going to kind of leave it a little bit like this because I'm going to get carried away and do too much if I'm not careful. Except I'm going to do a little bit of wispy clouds that's going to break off and come up through here. I think you'll like this. I don't know why people have so much trouble with clouds. I think they're afraid of them. It is a challenge, but it's not a challenge you cannot meet. You can do it. Bump it up here. So now we can allow ourselves to step back and look at it. It looks pretty good. I think I'll do some blending with a brush. And now right in here we see some wispy clouds, but you know they do that. They'll break off and just drift off sometimes. See what I can do around the edges here to make it look a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to take a brush. I don't have a real soft brush with me today. But I'm going to see how this works. And it's going to take off too much paint here. Let's see how that works around the edges. That might give us a little bit of variety of wispy clouds. Well, that's looking pretty good right there. All we're doing is taking the paint that's on the canvas and just pushing it around and let it drift off, scrubbing it in to the dry background. This is totally different from oil, because with oil you will have the blue and the white that will still be basically still wet, and you work them together. Here I'm working the blue and the clouds separately. And that's what's different from me. After painting with oils for 50 years, this year I'm painting with acrylics also. I'm still not sure which is my favorite. Okay. Now, that's pretty good, but let's say we could make it more interesting by having a sunset setting behind me, and let's say that we have a little bit of gold tone coming from that. So I'll mix a little gold tone with a lot of yellow. Let's see if this would be, I think would be more interesting. And as I made my gold color, I'm going to wipe off most of it. And we're just going to test this idea. Needs a little bit more yellow. So see, we can add this into this cloud and see if we like. Oh, that's much better. So we're going to have yellow and gold. You can get very dramatic with this if you want to, or you can make it very subtle. As I said, right through here, this is more or less kind of smooth area. So we can do this in this area right now. But also I'm going to go up here and show you that you do want to go ahead and carry the theme throughout the picture. A little orange and a little gold and a little yellow. Because it's the sun's setting. Let's see, that's a decision we've already made. We're going to carry out through the theme of this painting. I'm not going to show the sun setting, we're just going to show it casting a light here. I can explain, of course you know this, I'm sure, but if you put a sun setting in this area, it makes everything dark because we're on the shadow side of everything. So today we don't want the dark colors. I'm going to let the sunset be off the painting and to our left from behind me here. I see this just about enough just to add a little interest to the cloud. And you can make your decision about which you like the most. Now here I go with my finger painting. I just can't resist it. Look how pretty it can be if you handle it right. A little bit of yellow in that's too orange. Just a touch of yellow. Just kind of dab it in here. Makes it a little bit better. Okay. I think it's time to probably let that get dry and come back and work with the white. Add some more where it needs it. So I'm going to go from the white clouds into the background. And in the background we're going to decide what we're going to do. If this was in let's say the hill country, that's a pretty part of the world. Here in Texas, you would see some plateaus in the background. And that keeps you from having such a boring outline. So we can do that along here. Let it kind of drop off in the distance, far in the background. This is just flat land like you'll see out there around San Angelo area where all the cotton fields are. But in the background you will see the land that changes a little bit into plateaus. So I'm making a kind of a brownish color here. Dip a little bit into that blue to make the orange and make some more brown. I'm going to put my other brushes back into the water so they won't dry. So we're going to make a color here. Now, since this is in the distance, this color of brown is not going to be very strong. And we want it to kind of drift into the atmosphere and just not be so strong that it's you notice it too much. It's just in the background. So we can come in here and just let it kind of just kind of drop off here like this. And it's a little dark. I would probably go back and add a little more light colors. And then as I do this, it takes on a little more character, and you can put texture in there. And of course, you know, we're going to have some trees back in here too. So let's just kind of let this meander around. In case you don't know what meandering means, it means it's doesn't have a direction, but it's just moving. Meandering. Okay. I guess you can tell I was raised in the country, but it's a wonderful place to be raised. Here's the land that changes a little bit back over here also. Of course, it needs to be a little bit lighter in places where as the sun is setting and it is casting these colors here, you will begin to see it a little bit in the hillside or in the trees. Even if the trees are green, you'll see that color cast in there. So I think we're going to just kind of start putting a little bit of the orange and yellows, the land back in here where it catches the sunlight from the sunset. I'm putting the color kind of strong in here, but see, I'm going to work it in with what I have already. And bring it down. Now it looks like we're going to, the road's going to be going behind, over the hill and behind that little plateau area right here. I think we're just going to kind of blend this in. This is just background texture, no big deal, no big detail. And that's what I'll do on the other side. I'll flatten it out probably right in here and then pick up these shapes on the other side. Okay. As we come forward here, I will probably go ahead and finish this side basically. Then I'll do the other side, then we'll come back and put the trees in there. One thing I can do is allow my mind to wander is to go ahead. I think it's a good idea to put the trees in the background. Well, they're still just a little bit wet, and so that they can be blended in a little bit. Of course, now these are larger trees, but they look small from a distance. And little round trees that grow on these off in the distance. So That's what we're going to do here. We're just making sure we don't line them up or make them all look the same, because every tree is important and he wants his own attention. So now we have a little more color in the background. And so I'm going to add a little bit of some lighter colors in here too, which I think is fitting for the sunset colors. A little bit of yellow and orange and green. Okay, remember we're doing the left side of the trees. That is that's where the light comes from. You can build this up back in here a little bit different too. So for right now, this is enough. But what I like to do when I'm doing this is pick out a lighter or darker color. Right now I'm going to choose a darker brown and show you that the hills are they just each one look a little bit different. So that's what we'll do. We'll bring some shadows in here, and maybe where this hill is in front of that one. And then this one tapers off up in here. Time to blend and let them go back in the background again. And I'm just kind of tapping it and blending the edges so they won't completely disappear. And bring this one down. You see what I mean? We have a little bit more interest in the background. The time to do that is before you go to the middle ground and you do most of this before you do anything else, because we'll have something overlapping that and we don't want it to interfere and have to go back and redo that. So I'm just going to leave that. Now on the ground, even though this is kind of a little bit of a dry desert area, we have foliage, so I can scrub in some colors. Here and there. I do a little mixing on the palette because if something doesn't look right, I'll just go ahead and add something. I'm going to dry off my brush now and just kind of scrub it in. Let that be some little bit of grass that's growing, or cactus, or whatever that's on the ground here. By doing this, you show the definition and the change of the colors from this to the road. Just punch that color in there. Let that be part of the background. But we don't want it solid because plants don't grow very hardily except with their, the cedars. Some of those trees will, but not that many. Will survive the heat and the dry weather in that area. Okay. Now, in this front, this is time also to make a decision about what we're going to do. I was going to put a larger tree right here, but if we did that, we would be kind of out of balance. And when I say that, I mean the largest part of the cloud is on this side. So if I'm going to have a larger tree, we'll put it on the other side over there. So right in here, we're just going to put some cactus and a shrubbery. And before we can do that, we have to do a little bit more with the ground. Make it look a little more interesting. By having different shades of color, you can show there's low places in the earth, and there's high places. Maybe some prairie dog holes out in here. See a lot of those in that area. And as I come forward, I'm going to lighten this up. And now we just want to cover the canvas, like we said, like we've been saying. I think this would be a good place to add. I'm going to make some more dark brown. I'm going to show a little definition in this area. Got two reds, so I'm going to add a little more blue to this. So I just made a darker brown here. If you look when you're painting and you're kind of accidentally just kind of moving the brush, you'll see something. So right in here, I think this looks like this is like would be a good place to put a little hill in here. Let it drift off. And then maybe something down in here. Maybe some rocks or something. So let's just see how this will look. And of course, now if you're going to put rocks in a painting, they need to overlap a little bit. I'll come back to the light colors later. While this is a little bit wet, damp right here, I'm going to do some blending in. So it won't be so dark. I see this already looks better. If you do a little mixing right on the painting, on the canvas, sometimes you just, it keeps you from being so boring with just having one or two colors. This gives you many different colors as you go, and many different shapes. So you just kind of put random shapes in here. And sometimes it just turns out real nice. Right in here, I'm just going to bring this down so it looks a little better. And darken a little bit behind it so that it shows a little better. By the time we get through with this, we'll have cactus and shrubbery in here, so everything will make sense. I'm going to put a little highlight on the rocks. And you're guessing it's going to have a little gold highlights from the setting sun. I have to need to let them dry just a little bit first. So now we've already done all this, and I'm going to put a little bit of cactus in the front, because you're going to see cactus when you're out in this area. So how about I put a large section of cactus in here. And they come all, they sit there in different directions. Of course, they will have highlights. Don't be too careful about how they look. Just dab them in there and then see what you have and go with that. They will grow and grow until they occupy a very large space. Sometimes, if the farmers don't get them out, they will just overtake a place. So I'm giving the cactus and the rocks a little more time to dry. While I'm doing that, we need to decide about this area. I think this would be a perfect place to put a cedar tree, but not a very large one, because our larger tree is going to be on the other side of the road. Cedar is a dark green, so I'll pick blue and put in here and put in here. So let's kind of let this kind of come up in this area. How many of you have gone out in the woods and cut a tree for Christmas? Let's put that little one in the background. And even one smaller than that back in here. There can be one way back in the distance. You always notice the cedar trees because they're darker green than anything else. So let's start one right in here. Think Christmas tree. Let me do this. That way you know the shape and how they look to you. You have to be careful and wary of getting anything too large, because it inevitably will grow on you, literally. We'll put some in the middle of that still a little bit damp in there, so it's mixing up. So we'll go back later and touch this tree up. There will be not just lambs going right to left, but those that are right in front of you. So this would be a good time to put the highlights in that tree so we can kind of blend in a little bit. Well, it's just a little bit. So right beside where I have my dark green, I'm going to pull some yellow into this. Let me check this color out and see how that works. See if it shows enough. Not light enough, so we need more yellow. I don't want to get it too yellow, it won't look right. So this looks pretty yellow, but the paint itself is still wet, so it kind of darkens itself as you put it on there. Okay. And it's beginning to lean a little bit towards me, and I think that I can straighten it up a little bit. I think it needs to be straightened up a little bit by bringing the top over a little bit. See, it's growing on us, it's getting bigger. It's okay. It's a nice little Christmas tree. Somebody might stop and chop it down. That's what's sad about it. The prettiest ones are taken. But right now I think people are a little bit too lazy to go out and cut their own trees, so we just go to Walmart and buy them. Or somewhere else. So let's just kind of leave that alone. Later on I will darken it more under here and cast a shadow on the ground. See what we can do about this cactus over here. Not dry enough, so we'll let that get dry. Okay, I think as I'm working right to left, I'm going to work a little bit more on this ground here, and then I'm going to work on the road. Need to lighten up some of these colors, because overall we don't want a dark painting. I like to look cheerful and happy paintings. Put you in a good mood. Okay. A little texture. We don't want everything to be looking so plain. So we have a pretty good start over here. Okay, I'm going to use some of this dark color here. It looks more like green, so I'm going to add some red to it. I'll come up with another dark green, dark brown. Still using my primary colors. It looks a little green, so I've got to add a little bit of red to it. That's more the color of the dirt we have. Squeeze out the excess paint. You don't want to let your brush load up too much, because you just make a bigger mess. So right now, I'm going to show you how, for instance, the light is shining from your left. If it is, this rut is going to be darker right through here, because it's casting a shadow from the high part of the ground right here. Of course, this is not supposed to be a straight line, so we can just kind of deal with it like this, and you start seeing that take shape. And don't just draw a line. It looks better to just kind of say dab at it a little bit and not have it so straight, because when it's muddy they'll slip and slide. And over here the same thing. And you see that there'll be some texture here. And this is not dry, but it's just getting kind of tacky, kind of halfway dry. But we don't have to blend, so that's not a problem. As I go back, the details, the width of the shadows will be less. They're getting more narrow as they go back. Okay. So back in here, just have a little bit of paint in my brush. Well, that wasn't enough, so I'll go back in like this and just kind of slightly hit it here and there to get the effect as it disappears. You can make a very simple picture look pretty dramatic if you just take the time to have contrast. You must use contrast in your paintings for things to show up. sometimes it's not the subject matter that makes it interesting, it's how you apply the paint and how people are able to see what they see back in there. So right now we have that much detail already. So what I need to do now, we're going to kind of leave it alone as far as the rut's concerned back here. But I'm going to add a light color where the light is hitting it. And of course, you know, as we said before, you need to put a little bit of sunset color in everything. Just here and there, touch it up. The dirt is not always brown. It is whatever color is reflected on it. I could have used a smaller brush and put a lot more detail in here, but I have a tendency not to go for so much detail. Just a little. I think that's looking better. Well, some deep ruts in there. Must have been a big rain. Put right in here, same thing. Right through here. I'm going to add just a little bit more of that color along the ground here. Just sparingly. It's much better than just all that brown. Okay. So a while ago you heard my little chihuahua was wanting my attention. I'm painting at home today, so you'll hear a little noises from our household. It goes on day and night. Okay, here we go. In some of the videos that I've watched, you hear crying babies in the background. We don't have any babies around here. They're all grown. Now you see that there's probably some rocks in here and everything that we can go back and add, but I'm not going to do it right now. So I think that road right now has enough detail that we can go back and just dry and highlight a lot more. Also now there's going to be kind of like a drainage ditch, a little bit on each side. Sometimes I fail to remember that, but it's not as dramatic or as deep as the rut. It's over here where the side of the road is, where they drain the water, try to, the road workers fix these roads so they won't be too muddy. So it's going to be a medium shade and not so dark as the ruts. I'm just going to kind of blend it, because it just barely dips down. Now all of a sudden this plain little road is coming alive. Okay, let's do a little blending back in here. Now, that looks a little better. So let me put some trees in the background. I will do 90% of the painting of this painting in this setting, and then I'll come back and finish it a couple of hours when this gets dry. I just want to add to this side, which I've put on the other side, a little bit of the trees in the background and come forward. put these dark cedars back in here, and then we'll put some other colors. But the only thing that will survive in that part of the country, mesquite trees, cedar trees, and live oaks. Sometimes you see a whole grove of these cedar trees. I guess they like each other's company, so they just kind of grow along together. That's what we're going to do right over here. And I'm going to change the color a little bit. Okay. And put in some different kinds of background trees. Some of those I'm going to push back with a heel and you can barely see it. Kind of blend them into the sky in the background. And the atmosphere will change color of anything in the background. Everything you see here will be brighter and a different color as it comes forward. The back and the background, they have a lot less detail. Okay. I'm going to put the shadows beside these trees while it's still a little damp. Suggestion of shadows anyway. Now we have those trees kind of standing up. Blend it in and back in the background. So a few more little details and I'm going to take a break. I don't know what kind of tree I'm going to put right in here. I don't think I want a big cedar tree. It could be a live oak. I think it's an appropriate thing to put a mesquite tree in here. They have gnarly limbs and for different directions. They have very few leaves or heavy leaves on them, so I think that would be a good place to put one right in here. After I get through with the ground. So, and we know we'll have some grass growing in here, so I'm just going to kind of scrub in some color. Like I did before. Foliage in different colors. Now this is summertime. No fall colors in here. Okay. We're going to put in a pretty good day today. We'll talk about clouds some more. When I come back, we'll decide if we need some more color in the clouds for the sunset. If we have enough. Decide on the shape of the clouds if we like them. Make some changes there if we want to. You know there's going to be a lot more cactus back in here too, so I'm going to put the suggestion of cactus here and there. You know, I think that would look good back in there. Okay. Now this is kind of going down a hill, and I'm going to suggest that because I want this to look a little different here, so we're going to kind of bring it down and put the darker colors as it goes down, and it will be slightly in the shadow as it goes down the hill, because the light's going to hit the top of the hill. This dark brown, dark green, and a dark brown. We'll do that. So in here, this can be a rather sharp hill. And it goes up on the side of that hill. I think it's going to be rocks. See a lot of rocks beside the road. Also, we can blend in a nice grassy area right in here. So it doesn't all look the same. And see how that changes whenever you just kind of blend it together. You know that that's kind of a slight slope. And over here, you know, this is washed out. So that's what we want in a painting, is variety and interest along the way. So let's get rid of that light spots in the background. Just kind of scrub in a little bit of color. And give this painting a rest. I'll come back and finish this painting today. Okay, we'll see you after a while. Thank you.